From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reported tonight,
Bimbo Oloide.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Ebola virus test now a precondition for travelers into Nigeria, says federal government. Boko Haram embarks on a killing spree in Gwoza local government area of Borno State. 100 people killed overnight. Lagos governor rescinds decision on upward review of school fees for LASU students. Reverses tuition to 25,000 naira. And up to a quarter of Iraqis Christians are fleeing after Islamic militants seized the minority's biggest town.
On business news, Debt Management Office to put 100 billion naira worth of bonds on auction.
And on sports news tonight, coach Stephen Keshi agrees to resume his position as Super Eagles manager.
I'm Linda Kibe, and from Abuja, former military administrator of Kaduna State, retired Colonel Abubakar Umar, warns of dire consequences over the move to force Nasarawa State Governor out of power.
We begin tonight with the directive that henceforth all passengers flying into Nigeria will be tested for the Ebola virus. And this is coming from the Minister of Health, Professor Onyebuchi Chukwu, who also says that those leaving Nigeria for other countries will equally have to undergo similar tests at the airports. The minister told journalists today in Abuja that this is part of a decision taken to check the spread of the Ebola virus. The fear of the Ebola virus and the high mortality rate associated with it has created widespread panic locally and internationally, prompting the interactive meeting by the Nigerian government and diplomats on measures taken to contain the disease. Despite the panic associated with the Ebola scourge, Professor Chukwu said Nigeria will not close its borders in order to speedily identify victims of the disease.
The fear of the Ebola virus and the high mortality rate associated with it has created widespread panic locally and internationally, prompting this interactive meeting by the Nigerian government with diplomats on measures taken to contain the disease. Intense training and public awareness on the virus is underway, according to the Minister of Health. At present, 70 primary contacts with Patrick Sawyer on the Askai airline are under surveillance. Health Minister Onyebuchi Chukwu told the gathering that the government would commence screening of outbound passengers at the ports as a way of containing the disease.
Some people, against our advice, have even left Lagos primary contacts to go to other cities. We want to begin now also to screen all outbound. We don't want residents of Nigeria, citizens and non-citizens alike. If they have it, please let them stay in Nigeria. We'll treat them in Nigeria. We don't want them to go to other countries and cause problems for other countries.
Despite the panic, the health minister says the country would not close its borders in order to speedily identify victims of the virus.
The only thing I'm very sure of is that the Minister of Health will not be the last person to advise the President to close the borders if we are convinced it's necessary. If you did close, what you've only done is to get the people to go underground. And if you go underground, it means that they are not on your radar. And if they are not on your radar, you are not screening them.
Meanwhile, the ECOWAS Secretariat has announced a temporary shutdown of its Lagos office, where some of its personnel who had contact with the late Patrick Sawyer works.
It is clear that our officers who came in primary contact with the victim, with Mr. Sawyer, we have asked for collaboration from the government here, the state government, for us to fumigate the entire premises, because the vehicle that he used to take him to the hospital is in the compound. When they left him, they went back to office, they interacted, they did everything, they used the toilets, and every other thing.
Well, just as there is no confirmed cure or vaccine for the deadly virus, the health minister emphasizes that the public may not need to use gloves as it might aid further spread of Ebola. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, the Minister of Health, Professor Onyebuchi, has called for collaboration across the board to combat the challenges posed by the Ebola virus disease. While speaking at the launch of the Defense Identification Center, he urged the military to use its expertise in high-tech medicine to help other health centers. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, reports.
The Minister of Defense and his counterpart in the Ministry of Health and senior military officers at a gathering in Abuja. According to the military authorities, the hazards of counterterrorism and other operations of the Nigerian military have made it imperative to continue to make technological advancements, one of which is a DNA center for the identification of casualties of war and terrorism.
On a few occasions where multiple fatalities were recorded and individual corpses could not be identified, mass burials were resorted to. Such mass burials deny such heroes the privilege of being buried properly, while robbing the bereaved families the honor and satisfaction of seeing their loved ones given befitting burials. It is against this background that I view the commissioning of the Defense Identification Project today as being very important and of immense benefit to the Nigerian Armed Forces, the Nigerian Police, other paramilitary organizations, and the nation at large.
Beyond aiding the military in its operations, the Minister of Health believes the center provides an opportunity to help the government to combat serious health challenges confronting the nation. He urged the military to ensure that the center is maintained to add value to the nation's economy.
Now that the Armed Forces is going into high technological molecular diagnosis, it will be important, even in the context of the recent challenges of Ebola outbreak, to extend this facility to other diagnostic facilities, key ones, particularly areas you think members of the armed forces could indeed be exposed to in modern warfare. It will be necessary that as an adjunct, since you're already moving into molecular medicine, high-tech medicine, that you also begin to think of how to make proper diagnosis in each of these centers that are linked to this major Defense Identification Center.
The military has reassured that it is committed to defending the territorial integrity of Nigeria and will continue to make modern advancements to aid it. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
The first ever United States-Africa Leadership Summit has ended in Washington, D.C., and President Goodluck Jonathan is back in Nigeria. But that summit, presided over by the U.S. President Barack Obama, had about 48 African leaders in attendance. And in one of the sessions, President Obama said he will help the African leaders to deal with the Ebola crisis, promising to stand with the people of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone so that they can overcome the challenges.
Just before the summit proper, President Goodluck Jonathan held several bilaterals where he demanded serious international sanctions against countries, organizations, and individuals that sponsor terrorism anywhere in the world, including Nigeria.
Excellencies,
the summit proper was a full house featuring 48 of them, including Nigeria's president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. Now let me allow you to listen to President Obama's reaction to Ebola virus and what he is out to do.
The United States and our international partners will continue to do whatever we can to help our African partners respond to this crisis and to stand with the people of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. In their histories, they've overcome great challenges, and they are drawing on that same spirit of strength and resilience today.
He delved into the objective of the summit, observing that Africa has the world's fastest growing economies today, and that America must be part of the progress in trade.
Number one, we have the opportunity to expand trade that creates jobs. The new trade deals and investments I announced yesterday are an important step. And today we can focus on what we can do as governments to accelerate that investment. Economic and regulatory reforms, regional integration, and development so that growth is broad-based, especially among women who must be empowered for economies to truly flourish.
In governance and leadership,
it's time for a new model of partnership between America and Africa, a partnership of equals that focuses on African capacity to solve problems and on Africa's capacity to grow. And that's
at this point, the American president had a group photograph with the African leaders before they went into the real action. They locked themselves in for a summit President Obama says will deliver more prosperity, more security, and more justice to the citizens of Africa and the United States. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
Reports say that at least 100 people have died after members of the Boko Haram sect attacked Goza town in Borno State, Nigeria's northeast region. This is coming as the military says it has commenced an operation which is aimed at restoring law and order to the area. At the moment, the whereabouts of the new emir of Goza, Mohammed Timta, who succeeded the late emir killed in May this year by the insurgents, remains unknown. Residents say that hundreds of Boko Haram gunmen dressed in military uniforms invaded the border town yesterday morning while riding on different types of armored vehicles and trucks. An initial attack on the town was repelled by the army on Tuesday this week, but the insurgents reinforced and launched a major offensive yesterday. The immediate past emir, Mr. Timta's father, was killed on May the 30th by the Boko Haram insurgents. Both Damboa and Goza were seized by insurgents last month and their flags hoisted. The military has yet to comment on the recent takeover of the town by the insurgents. Borno State Police Command confirmed that the police was aware of the attack and the ongoing occupation of Goza by the insurgents. Attacks on Borno communities by the Boko Haram sect have continued despite the state of emergency imposed on the state since last year. In part two, after the break, APC and PDP hold separate protests on the impeachment of Governor Tanko Al-Makura. Do stay with us.